다 탐제기 당부 선바 전주초도 샘제네 그노 넘버 타베 거네 다네 담비추 니로나스
Everyone should arouse, generate the mind of awakening, bodhicitta, and with the mindfulness of such an intent, then hearing the teachings.
어테레 테네 데인두 테네 다 다른 기 셰제기 최대 다 가장 하는 저 사회의 대월식의 닝부 코란기 테네 대월식의 닝부 코란 사회가 강라 따게 여바당 테네 다가는 신 대월식의 닝부티 테네 심전 탐제를 여바당 텐데 토는 하는 셰바레스 대인두 대손자 테네 대식 닝부세와티 또딱 간디값수 민다게 열었으나 테네 단단한 초 테네 시두기 내갑수라 하고서와 시두기 내갑수 베나 장신기 넘버 타고 이나양 로브르지트메 드네 테네 고마시바 이나양 테네 실여바 손자 텔라 테네 데어시비 닝보스 미요스 타버레스 테레 테네 대다비게 데어시비 닝보테 테네 응원도 줄네 테네 응원도 주로 용에게 값솔라 테네 텔라 테네 조 최지고스 명당은这个 요레스 최고스 명당버레스 디스디오 칸스게 요레스나 최지고스 미 최지고 텔라 테네 롱주족베 고다 줄베 고 베나 고숨 직샤르도 줘봐 디스게 요레스 디스나레 테네 상제 바탈라
Up to this point, we have talked about how
제단게 대신 닝보스 민강라 딱 봐다
we have talked about what is referred to as Buddha nature or Tathagata Garbha, and what is it that is Buddha nature, and how Buddha nature or essence of enlightenment is inherent in all beings. When the term Tathagata Garbha or Buddha nature, essence of enlightenment is used, it is used in the context of ground, from the point of view of ground, while Buddha nature in itself is never obscured, naturally pure, naturally unobscured, yet at the time when we have not experienced the complete unfolding of it, then referred to as Buddha nature. When we have the experience of unfolding of Buddha nature, a recognition of Buddha nature, then at that time referred to as Buddhahood, experience of complete enlightened mind.
This means that yours. This do this one's then 사회계 then 상 yes ngaran zu pyoge tsiktela then 상계 쓰게 yours. This do can 쓰게 yours na 어떤 데스 전에 then reduce capsula this tag yours. then lam jinne capsula tene dewar shikbi ke nyingbo tela tene chanju ke semrum buchi se yanda bo tang tene bena ngaran soge ta 가서 올해 군시세야 안라보당 되는 다가난 신 민나바 나초보다니 되는 스타기어레스 단 도나 되는 타르도 기 레빈네 갑솔라 텔라조 산제기 콤반스 전 따기어레 되는 산제세야데 칸스기어레스나 상세나 되는 드바 탐제다 자와 용수 자와 암 탐제 되네 마릭바 탐제 용수 상바텔라 상스 아니 예세야티 되네 진이 쳔베 이시 온도 줄바 텔라 되네 예스 제네밍 따기요레스 되네 상스 칸데스가 요르세나 쳇다웨 추 탐제게 내로 쳇다와 신도 또네 되네 드바 탐제도 용수 자와텔라 상 되네 진이 바세도 진이베 이실 때네 되네 탐제 쳔베 이시 예바 온도 줄바 텔라 예스 제네 든데스게 요레 대손장 되네 상 예스 디스게 요레스 대인도 되네 상웨게 참 쳇다와 똑베게 차텔라 ngana tisige yore randeam chugo ane jinyi ba kembe yi gebe chatela shendeam sujugo lonjo zogbe ko to trukus jane ta kusum de tuks jane tel zogo yores
so at the ground level we talk of Buddha nature. And on the path stage or the path level, then Buddha nature is referred from the point of view bodhicitta, referred to as bodhicitta or that of alaya, the ground for all, and various other names from the path point of view or at the path level. And at the fruition stage or level, then establishing into the state of Buddhahood, or realization of complete awakened mind, and experience of the state of Buddha. The Tibetan word for Buddha having two syllables, sang and ye. Sang meaning fully clarified of all obscurations.
This is the dribati jik kasewapa yugyuyene sangbosigyo mares chetawa tane cheta 진이 kimbe 이시세요 여러분 쳇다와 최 탐제게 내로 쳇다와 양탁베 내로 또바 랑신 동 마주바 또바 될 때네 드바 탐제게 달자 차지니다 타와 될라스요 레스 배나 템바니 쓰요 여러분 이시
clarified of all confusion, uprooting of all ignorance. Yes. Sang simply meaning clarified of. And then the second syllable, ye, is complete development, fulfillment, and becoming endowed with absolute wisdom, or unfolding, complete unfolding. And thus also this experience of complete unfolding or the state of Buddhahood is referred to as becoming endowed with the twofold wisdom, twofold knowledge. Knowledge or the wisdom into fundamental undistorted nature of things, whatever it is, as well as wisdom, understanding into the nature of all things without distortion, and it's a discerning wisdom. And so wisdom into the nature of all things, as well as nature of anything, as well as wisdom into the discerning wisdom or discriminating wisdom in that specific, without the seeing the nature of one thing and not seeing the nature of another. And so when we talk about thus clarifying of confusion or uprooting of confusion, doesn't mean that confusion or ignorance was left away or put aside, that it is something that could be put aside. Through developing the wisdom into the nature of all things, the confusion becomes self-liberated from that point of view. The self-clarification of confusion.
추바 코랑 그 ngo디 랑로로 송아. 추바 코랑 그 ngo디 쳇다와 신도 세gne 랑로도 송아.
And the nature of confusion, seeing as the nature of things as they are, and therefore the self-liberation of confusion. And so also the experience of Buddhahood is referred to as the development or the fulfillment of the twofold benefits, becoming endowed with the twofold benefit. In many of the Buddhist text or literature, one would come across a number of times the realization of the two benefit or the two meaning. The two meaning in reference to the Buddha, those who have become endowed with the two meaning or two benefit. And realization of dharmakaya, true nature of mind, dharmakaya is benefit for the one who has realized such a state of realization or nature of mind as such. And through the manifestation of various Buddha activities in the form of Sambhogakaya and Nirmanakayas, or referred to as the form kayas, the benefiting others, bringing meaningfulness of benefiting others. So in this way, twofold benefit or twofold meaning.
Oh, this songs are this Hindu. 좀 tell 때네 아니 탑직도 아니 산지의 공방 다단다든 제도 기내가 산지의 공방도 온도 줄도 되네 배나 단다티 배나 연대야 나바 나소바 되네 온도 줄고요 레스 온도 줄바티 코란라 배나 예 란체스 예바티 온도 줄고요레 대손자다 마시 가장의 그 롭징에 말라반나 신기 배나 자외 연대 숨주전이 있을 단다 자와암 상외 연대 숨주전이 주고 연대 숨주전이 시작이요레 되네 다가는 신기 민배 연대스도 단소 예배 연대암 되네 단다 수고기 연대 숨주전이 있을 자명의 연대 주주섭시 있을 되네 자외 같은 데스 전에 시작이요레스
With the experience of complete awakened mind or Buddhahood, one becomes endowed with various qualities or attributes, and these qualities that are the qualities of a Buddha is simply unfolding of the ground, simply becoming the qualities of the ground revealed. And so again, these attributes or these qualities are not some newly acquired or developed. And as His Eminence had briefly mentioned, there are the 64 qualities or attributes of enlightened mind or a Buddha. 32 of them, what one has become clarified of, 32 clarifications or aspects of clarifications in reference to Dharmakaya. And then the 32 qualities of ripening, attributes of ripening, and this is in reference to the form kayas, which is subtle sambhoga kaya and gross nirmana kaya, and ripening of fulfillment.
어tendes tene yore tene zo tene chugu yonden di tene ta nge rots ji shegins indu tene top chu menjik ba shi mande ba chobje tene shege yores de shege yore tene top chu se ya de zawe ke gas mande ba sana pena ta nyentho da chanju semba la so ba le kebar to phagwa tenzo da mande be ge yonde 개버도 봐봐 산지게 연데스게 여러봐 대 인도 만데바 접제 딘데스 채널 숨주 정이 시작이 여레스 근데 저 톱주 세와도 좀 생각하래서나 근데 대답이 근데 진이 챔베게 이시티 근데 원도 줄 바나 짓다웨게 내로디 원도 줄 사와 인도 근데 심쟁게 8월 보고 빼나 롭 레르신도 시에게 tene yenaya parol boge dujegi tene bena durja tamjegi gyu ta meba da kamla soba tene kembege nube topdan dembada tene den demba tsamje ma chebege tetta boge durjegi kamda nubada korange wang보다 참발라 tene 담배 쳬된 nubege nubadan dembada topdan dembada den nuba tsamje ma chebege tetta boge 쳬된수 탐jegi tene parol boge tene 갈색고래 durja 탐제 멤버 뉴베게 배나 노르나 톱 세야디 가세고레스나 안에 코라 최 탐제게 내로디 제다와 신도 색발라 때네 대답이고 파로버게 민뉴바다 존뉴바다 되네 대나시 존뉴바 세백 탑테도 좀 뉴베게 톱 나와 힘바 손자한테라 되네 톱 주스 대답이고 다 연대 톱 주스 여기요레스
순주순인데 덕신 예와 채는 딘딘딘 채널
맞아요 답지단 그 톱세야 그 챙인다 같아. 다난 세그 톱라든 라면은 마무치게 여러분. 톱주스.
His Eminence will not go into the details of each of these specific attributes.
가능성이 아주 갈릴롭전 전에 싱그레스트. 갈리갈리라.
His Eminence feels that if you have some understanding, or if you are informed of that there are these attributes or the qualities of the Buddha, and then maybe through your activity of studying that you may
남들한테 하고 그래서.
know the numbers and the specific ones. His Eminence would like to provide a more general understanding of these attributes. And the first 32 are classified into what is known as the 10 strengths or the 10 powers, and 4 fearlessness, and the 18 incomparable or unsurpassable, and attributes of quality. And with regard to from the 10 powers or the strengths, what is meant by 10 strengths is one, because of the having wisdom into the nature of all things, the wisdom of the Buddha has insight into the nature of the mind, nature of the situation of beings, every being. And having insight into the nature of mind, meaning inclinations, capacity, receptivity. And so based on that, having insight into what particular aspect of teaching, what particular level of teaching, for instance, is appropriate for various individuals, based on having wisdom into these conditions of their mind, specific nature, receptivity, and so forth. So, having that insight and knowing what is most effective, and therefore can do that which is most beneficial, that which is most appropriate to the given individual. And when one could do that, obviously that will have effects. That will be beneficial, fruit-bearing. From that point of view, strength, power, that it can affect.
Bana temba tsamji ta sungba tsamji ma yinba tiki shengi paro bu gyula njuk nyuba da mi nyuba chor nyuba top tan temba nyuba tan temba.
So it is not just, then it would not be that quality of the Buddha then it's not just limited to simply being able to show the way or the
sungba re
means.
seya yob tsamji. Sungba re, nangba re seya tsamji ma yinba ngoy paro bu gyula njuk nyuba mi nyuba chor nyuba top tan.
So it is not just a matter of saying the Buddha has taught, the Buddha has said these, and but what the Buddha has taught when he taught to the beings that he taught, it affected them. It affected the ripening of their beings. So it was not just simply, because if simply saying or teaching doesn't mean it got integrated in the life, the mind of the person receiving, hearing. Not only hearing, but it affected the integration of it, thus experiencing the benefit of it in this way, and the power or the ability to effect.
Tendes res. Tene da top seya de tenda so da tende ge tone top juice. Tene menjik ba shi seya de khans se ge yor se na. Tene te da be ki tene chenye kembe ki chita wa tok be ki tene yi shi la tene pena randun tu pena ngomber zo bu san ge bar ba ti pena chenda ki tene la ya ma jik ndo wa ta te pena non ro ju ye be te da bin jik ba tan chawa min jik ba tene ma che be ke pena khor ji ki usula pena shen paro bu durja la so ba zimba la tene dang shen paro bu durja la so ba tene membala tene jikpa meba jikpa tan chawa khana sena jinyi to cha chitawa ne lu de to cha de dan khona chö tamje ge ne lu ran ma ruba to de tene ten jikpa tamje da yong su chawa norna pen to yong da miyon samba da den nu da menu sambe jikpa tamje da yong su chawa ran dun tu dan jikpa min jikpa se ya de ben la ya 코알 도주 매바 셴드는 직바 매바 세야드 칸스게 요르스나 셴 파로 버근 로아 다투 마투게 대다 버근 직바 탐제도 용수 차와 되라 민직바 소 시스템 민직바 시스게 요르스 민직바 세야드 다디 가르라스나 민직바 준센디 쳇다와 똑발 진이 쳇다와 내로 똑발 때네르바 다탄데 추고연데 시게 요르바
So each of the 10 strengths or 10 powers have this kind of quality that based on the wisdom and the insight that one has, that what one does can affect the intended or the if there's nothing that is done that doesn't have effect in wholesome, the beneficial effect. And then for fearlessness. Fearlessness, firstly, the meaning of fearlessness is having the wisdom or insight into the true nature of all things, therefore fearlessness. There is no hidden, no obscured places in that sense. So having total and complete insight into the nature of everything, nature of anything or everything from that point of fearlessness. So therefore, with regard to oneself as having attained Buddhahood or the experience of Dharmakaya, the benefit for one is that there is no limitation whatsoever. There is no chances of falling back into suffering, falling back into confusion. No experience of such, no concern for such, no hesitation that one might lose. It is beyond the having to have concern or the experience in itself being limited to going back or falling down.
대당 되네 마세베게 단당하라도 군족게 나와지요 봐. 군족게 나왔는데 창막에 찍지. 맨날 출주거를 삼베게 대답하게 된 직받아 차와. 다 쪼도 된다 테레스. 가나에서는 최 탐제게 내로도 식차도 전주 탐제게 아파 출루거를 제루거를 삼베게 직받아 탐제다 차와.
So, for instance, totally liberated from the fear of relative appearance, making one become confused, that they will attract or make one confused. Because seeing the nature of all things, seeing the nature of the play of phenomena, and so there is no fear, no concern of getting caught up, influenced by. And so as far as benefit on the side of one who has attained Buddhahood, for one's own benefit, then with regard to benefiting others, fearlessness. Fearlessness in help benefiting others. There is no fear. Fearlessness and again, from the point of view of having insight and the wisdom into the nature of all things. Whether one can benefit or not. Whether what one does will benefit or not. Having no doubts, having no hesitations, having no, again, in the obscurations about whether it's going towards the direction of benefiting beings or not. And seeing through in that sense. So, fearlessness in benefiting others. Fearlessness in one's own experience of enlightened mind, and fearlessness in the benefiting of beings, that there being no hesitation.
텐데스레 테네 데손자 민직바 제 테네 만제바 좁제스도 테네 대답이게 톱당 민직바 톱 당 민직발라 때네 톱당 민직발라 때네 되네 만데바 시두 베나 소수기고 탐을 받아 시험하고 버리 되네 dem마체베게 베나 년토다 랑저도 장주 셈발라 소베게 베나 주요 당 만데바 베차샤바이나 당아란소 다 장주 셈발라 장주 셈바다 좀 망부요네 근데시 인도 베나타 ngaran dabuji tanda cedang dabuji ina ten nyambar shabe ne gabda nyambar mashabe ne gabda ngaran sul ta pen tendes yungu yores tene daga na shinke mache peke pena ta de mao ta da tu sum pena ta tanda ngaran so pena ta chonglam ne sungte satangbu tonglam padola tene nyomum be debas tene shag yores tene nyomumbe tene debas tene shagiyore tene gomlamne tene tonglam sa thangbune tene mada sa du pardola tene zo ti tanda ti shagiyore nyomjuk debas tene tene tengenjena nyombrun juk deba dewa do de chingwa goba seati che tene de dingdola dewa salwa medoba tene tenzula shemba shuba 하고송아 대선메도 개념네 셴바 슈바텔 뇽주기 드바스제네 뇽주기 드바다 트라와체 데네 닭바사 숨 세야지 여러분 닭바사 숨 텔라 데네 셰제 드바스제네 데네 코스메 메도바 하고송아 메도베 장토바 세리 여러분 덴데스 제네 답베나 림베 코나타 가서고레 지백 차지 여레스 데 인도 데네 산제라 대다비게 베나 뇽몽베 드바 뇽주게 드바 바자 드 셰제 드바 탐제도 용수 타워 임바 손장 텔라 때네 아니 베나 셰 만데바 세야다 년도더랑 이제 전주 선발라 소바 현다 만데베게 대답하기 연도 접게 배차샤는 게 단들라는 신게 되는 냠제 드바 냠샤다 제섭신 소스
근데 숨바스 타마숨들이야 코스메도
코스메도 베기 텔라 셰제 드바 세거바 셰제 드바도 코스메도 베기 되네 게 담마토바텔 셰제 드바 세거바 코스메도 베기 답토바텔라
Then with regards to the 18 incomparable attributes of the qualities is having attributes which are beyond what others
다티야 양제 큐틴디슬라다 티 티시두 다티 강거 돈에 시두그 돈에 예와샤고요 말이에요. 고차네 하고송아 산지게 단 데빈네갑 시게요 봐. 다나가란스 시두그 네갑 시게요. 달람두그 네갑 시두 뭔데 줄마주그 네갑 봐. 디손단티 만데바시르 소소 임바질 베나 되게 차네 시게요. 마도 야
시드는 매버실이야.
매버질 때네 시게요 말 봐.
So these incomparable qualities, incomparable in the sense beyond what others lack, that becoming endowed with what others lack, what others don't have, be they sentient beings in general, be they arhats, be they bodhisattvas because in talking about the bodhisattvas, then there are the various bodhisattva stages. And so, having attributes, having the endowed with these qualities which are beyond what anybody else has or realized, what anybody else has realized. In the case of even the bodhisattva stages, when we talk about the three types of mental delusion, in relationship to the path, from the path of accumulation to the path of seeing, and going through the stages of path, at the point of experiencing the path of seeing is the first bodhisattva level, or first bodhisattva bhumi. And until that, from the path of accumulation until the path of seeing, then the delusion of conflicting emotional patterns, habitual patterns. And then from the second to the seventh,
말다 당분에
from the first to the seventh bhumi of the bodhisattvas, then the again the pattern of the meditative obscuring the proper meditative state, the delusion of obscuring the proper meditative state, in that such at the beginning, then the obscuration of wildness and dullness, and further along, then when there is experience of certain glimpses of clarity, glimpses of bliss, glimpses of insubstantiality, emptiness, then in one's meditation practice, then still because of patterns of clinging, one clings to these glimpses, and thus obscuring the furthering of meditative insight,
빼나
development of meditative insight.
하는 장물로를 타이근 고르티나 요아레스 캐난스 따따나 하고 냠상보 데설 메도 장 짐바초노 코르웨 주스 제단 데설 메도 왜 냠티 곰게 냠레스 아고송아
Desalda medovat.
데설 메도 왜 냠티 때제단게 냠레스 디야 냠이야 고래 데른 짐바초나 대양 코르웨 주 이송브레스 데스드 뇽주그 드바티 데송고 요아레스.
Again, if you refer to the songs of the the Reign of Wisdom, or the collection of the songs of the Kagyu Gurus, and in one of the songs of Lodotai, it is said that the experience of bliss, clarity, non-thought or non-conceptual experience of mind,
냠상보 데설 메도 장
emptiness,
냠상보 데설 메도 장 제단게 냠데 독자 말에 데른 짐바초노 코르웨 주스.
these are all nothing negative. They are good. There are glimpses in that signs of one's meditative development, in that sense.
베나 카탕 나란도 시에바나 시스템 코랑게 오 똥바 넘버 살와 데네 릭바 스제네 티 냠텐즈로 바스 데는 zem바초나 코르웨 주이스.
So these are good glimpses. These are glimpses that are very much in connection with the nature of one's mind. As again we had talked about, the emptiness, nature of mind, characterized by emptiness and luminosity and self-awareness. And so these glimpses are expressions of those characteristics of the nature of mind. So in the songs of Lodotai it is said, while these are good glimpses, clinging to them is samsara. Even if they are good glimpses, but clinging to them is what makes it samsaric. So in those stages of the bodhisattvas also, there are such mental delusion or obscurations. Then the three final stages of the bodhisattvas, pure, what is referred to as the pure stages of the bodhisattvas, and still there can be the traits of the obscuration of resting in the non-referential nature of mind, liberated from the threesome reference point of active subject, object, and active meditation, and total unconditional non-referential state of mind. And so the obscuration of the not having complete total insight, absolute insight, absolute wisdom into the nature of things. And so yet one who's experienced complete Buddhahood is not tainted by any obscurations whatsoever, completely liberated of, because of the wisdom or insight into the true and fundamental nature of all things, therefore self-liberation or clarification of all obscuration. While we talk of the such profound or incomparable attributes or qualities of the Buddha, His Eminence does not want you to lose sight of what we have talked about earlier or develop misconceptions around it in that these attributes, these incomparable qualities are not again it's not something that newly happened, that is not there at the ground level, at the ground stage. And all of these attributes are there. Having experienced the self-clarification of all confusion, or having experienced the complete unfolding of potential all-knowing wisdom, that these one becomes endowed or unfolding rather of these attributes happen simultaneously too.
Tendesi indu te sonza ngaranzo ke tene tetabu ki chuku ki yonden te tene ngaranzo shidula tene yebares yenayang tene da te ngondo jur mato ba de kareresana tene zo da ngaranzo tete chu judu kago yenamena ngaranzo pena pechenala segre da pena ngaranzo 군다 xianwa yongzhup seya jiksum sige yore 군다 sena pa lo 군도 딱바 xianwa sena khan sige yore sena tene 군다 seya de khan sige yore sena 당보 tene bena yuldan yurjen nisu mebala nisu yore sena pa lo 군도 딱바 tele 군다 sige yore tene xianwa singe ti tetabu ke yuldan yurjen nisu yore samne 군도 딱바 tele tene tene churbe ke tokpan damena mangbu namdon churbe ke tokpan mangbu yungu yore tela shenwang sige yore khana sana shenwang sidi churbe tokpa tige ta ngarang zu wang da ma su gyurun zhugu yore ba shenwang tene te ni ke ane sungzi ni da chawe ke yungzhup te la drip zhugu yore yungzhup seya ti sungzi ni da chawe ke ta khora yang takbe nelu ti sige yore tela drip zhudu tene 단다 ngaranzo yongzhup koran te dribdode tene digi yondenge cha tamje tene ngondo jur toguyo mares 하고 송아 대손자 인도 되네 원에게 단다 산지에게 단다 시에대야 추구의 연대 단다 돕죠 면직바시 만제바 좁게데 단다 가란소 단다 시두를 여대바지레데 이나야 군다 시원이게 때네 되네 접대고요 그래서 대손자 듣고요 그래서
So, again, the these many attributes that are talked about at the fruition stage is there at the ground stage level, or ground stage, or ground level. And not having recognized the nature of the ground also is not recognizing the nature of the attributes. And so the reason that we, even though as far as the ground or the potential is concerned, but how we have not realized that fruition stage, recognized, even though we have all the resourcefulness, we are totally resourceful in that sense. And this is because, again, it comes in the text, the teachings very often. And there's two words that His Eminence would like to explain. Three. Two leading to the third, yes, three. So, the one is known as why we have not experienced or recognized the fruition, these insight and attributes. One is because of what is known as kuntak, the two-syllabled word kuntak is kuntak seems to mean conceptual reality. That we have the conceptual fixation, conceptual reality, that is the notion of self existing is a conceptual reality, and the notion of others existing. So this fixation to the conceptual notion of reality, or conceptual reality. And so, kun, referring to all, and we view all from the point of view of conceptual reality, labeling with conceptual reality. Notion of self and others, or mine, others, reference point reality to strengthen this notion of self-reality. So, and because of this conceptual reality, in that way confused reality that we hold on to, reality in the sense we're holding on to, and then we quite automatically become subject to what then is known as Xian Wang. In Tibetan, Xian Wang. Xian meaning others, Wang is then control or the dictate of power. And so
Tesidu shen trube ke tokpa ke tene yongrup sem tene sungzi ni dan ta yongrup sungzi ni dan ta sem tela tene wang che ba shen trube ke tokpa.
So because of the constant mental confusion which is triggered by conceptual reality, the notion of reality, dualistic or conceptual reality, confuse one's mind is rampant with confused concepts of reality. And so overpowered by that, constantly governed by that, and this confusion, this obscuration, one's mind in that sense becoming completely paranoid, this obscures from experiencing the totally complete. They're having no need for the conceptual reality, totally complete in their sense. Totally complete nature of mind obscures, distorts one from experiencing. It's not that nature of mind is gone, but one's mind based on so much fixation on the conceptual reality and therefore stimulated by that reality, so much concepts of confusion happening, one's experience of one's mind is obscured from seeing sort of the wholeness, if you would, the completeness of the nature of one's mind.
Tila yongchup sekobe jumsen de khane sena chuni töntam demba tila nyurwa meba tang tene yönden tamje ke khora rangche su yeba yongsu chubas tisege yore sam khoram
And
dewa
so,
shikbe nyingbu tila
because of the conceptual reality and therefore becoming governed by the confusion that is stirred up by such a notion of reality, nature of one's mind, perceiving, experiencing the nature of one's mind is obscured, which is referred to as the third term, Yongdrup. Yong is all-encompassing. Drup is like self-fulfilled and in itself complete. But a nature endowed with all of these attributes. We don't have to bring anything new or different to make it complete, full. But what is complete and full in itself, matter of speaking, in itself is obscured. One is obscured from experiencing the fullness of it, the completeness of it.
Tesonza te indu tapena kun te indu ta kunta shenwa yongchup seya de tsikda hajange ta ngaran zo ngone kechembushira res te indu tapena ngaran cho tanda shendong jungge shendong ge kandes dubi yonggo yorsana yongchup sem dewar shikbe ge ning bu yongchup ji yorba tela she tanda kun다 단 셴완이 기 동바텔다 셴동문에 디텍스게 요레스.
These three words are very, very important.
아니 탐제라 다 가서 딱 봐고 해야지.
You would, as one delves into further study of many of the major texts, one would come across these three terms or words very often. And in particular, those who have interest in understanding the Shentong view and those who uphold the Shentong view, then these terms are very important. The meaning, rather, of these terms are very important. Yongdrup, the last one, the last word. Yongdrup is fullness or completeness of the great bliss nature of mind. When we talk about a great bliss nature of mind, it is the very nature of mind, not separate, not acquired, something newly acquired. And so the nature of mind is complete. It doesn't need, or it is not short of any, but the nature is full, complete. And so, in relationship to Xiantong view, emptiness of others, literally, empty of others, is empty of kunta, conceptual reality, label reality. One attach label to arising of phenomena and clings to them as being same as the label, holding true to what one labels it as. And because of the creating this conceptual reality, a dualistic fixation, and one's mind operates on the basis of that reality, which is confusion. So one's mind is totally distorted, and which is human, completely overpowered by confusion that is based on conceptual reality. And becoming liberated of such, and through understanding and through experiences, then emptiness of others.
Tisonza Tandorna, Dune Lana, Yondup ke Matong Bachene, Yondup la, Kunda da Xianwang Tong Materes, Tandorna.
So empty of Kuntak and Xianwang. And another way of saying is the nature of mind, or Yongdrup, which is complete and full in itself, is not empty of itself, but empty of others, which is Kundak and Xianwang. So these are some pertinent or main points in establishing the Xiantong view.
Tendesri ti inda ndorna tangi tanda sheya tela zu teta yu ge chamin ge chawe yende sumju zanyi ti tene chugu ge yende res te indu tene khashege tene tongba yin se anda wuji khasa gore tanga tongni tongsa yin sidu jik tongni tongba yin sidu te beta tab den do khab shibuji 하고 소아 텐데 지라 연저 텐스 자니네 말레스 teta yu chugu yende ti tongni tongba yende res 다 텐데 지 창스는 아는 캐나도 오늘 tongni tongba res
So, some people view the realization of emptiness as
가시에게 돈이 또 세야 돼. 파동반이 레 삼바점데 돈이 또 바탕. 가시에게 돈이 또 세야 돼. 가야 매버직 다 가서 그래. 아니 냠잠지 총한테라 돈이 또 봤지네. 다 돈이 또 망부지게 또 인삼에 된데서 연구요르티 돈이 또 말했어. 돈이 또 연데도 단다산 추구 연데도 상무 상고요. 그랬어.
Many people when talking about realization of emptiness make emptiness very very easy. Make the realization of emptiness very easy, very simple. And therefore meaningless. The notion of realization of emptiness is having some intellectual understanding of what emptiness means, and therefore you're having the concept, so this is emptiness, and thinking of that as emptiness, a realization of emptiness. Some people say they understand emptiness, but they have experience of emptiness on the basis of that, making emptiness sound so easy. And others have some glimpses. And on the basis of having glimpses, talk of having experience of emptiness. Also sounding experience of emptiness as being that simple or that easy. If one has realized the state of Dharmakaya, or one has experienced the complete unfolding of Buddha nature,
동니 똑발라스는 남직도.
and liberated of, or clarified of the specific obscuration or illusion of reality, as we have talked about, totally and completely, then that is the realization of emptiness.
다 대송자 대답이 그 연대 두 번째 줄 거고요. 그래서 연대 소수 줄을 예비도 먼저 줄도 같이.
The
대파도라 돈이 또 승원에 또 보면 알았어.
recognizing of all the attribute potential, and complete unfolding of Buddha nature and attributes of Buddha nature, the various knowledges on the qualities of the Buddha that we have talked about, until one has experienced or recognized all of these, then one has not realized true emptiness.
Yeah, that's one way.
Okay, please, questions.
Yes.
During this, can you clarify what you mean by conceptual reality terms? All of us on the planet share some notion of conceptual reality in terms of the shape of the planet and basic human conditions, et cetera. Would that be considered conceptual view of reality? And if so, what is the difference between concept and form?
What's the difference between
Concept and form. So in terms of shared reality, a vast amount of energy on the planet is being devoted to imposing different views of reality on people. Even children, everybody else, from different ways of seeing it.
디 단다 군다 르다
군다.
심기 수저 기타니다 덴바 티 단다 세브치 광 하고 마소스다 인지 찍을 때니나 가이나 벤나스라바 만한주 청만 기티니 지용 기티니다 디디레 삼박티 즉 여러바스 다 사람들이
레레.
디 인도다 디니 투뭉크다 지 여러반
레.
디니 케르게 로 따셔니 투뭉크드는 로 따 디니 덴데 인도 양나 디니 디 찍다가 다위나 다 노비 비치라반 투뭉크다 시도다 디 찍들이야 근데 템바초르냐 면 선면로 찍 디니 덴데 이나 지다나 디니 로그 따고 탕 드니 속니냐 드니 제바 하요스 답은 속때 창만 그때니 직 통도 찍나시 통고라
네.
드니 대단 드니 드니 로 따고 드니 참 마싱은 저때니 로신신 감님 드니 따와 먹보다 인데지랑 통고는 인데지랑 요르신단 몰라본 거 요르스
다티레스.
답도 속다
너나
입다
다 군도 따 세야드 간스게 요르스나 베나 다 당부 숙다 셰베게 바로 간데지 요르스나 숙호랑 게 차네 가상에 시에반는 신기 가세고래 디담지레스 베나 숙ti 코란 강할 때는 연구요랬잖아. 그다음에 저탐디 티임벌 된 연구요랬어. 그래서 던들게 나와암 드네 가서 그래 다스 나란소 넘버 망가봐 싸워서 그러봐. 될 때네 tange요랬어. 대점디 제가 나와점디 tange요랬어. 얘나양 딱 봤어야 돼 가능스나 텐데레 삼바지기 나랑 초라 배나 카당에서야 돼 셰설웨기 투 주바지기 열어봐 직당 되네 대양 딱직 되네 딱바임바 지기 임바 르보임바 지 나랑 저게 짐밤 똑바시 동아스 대코란라 군도 딱바스기 열어스
리부다는 무슨
나대 나랑 써야 돼
되네 지금 수 요청 한저 왔잖아 봐
수요 맞춰봐 말해
넘버 망가 찬
제단 군도 딱 봤어야 돼. 뭐부 코라는 군도 딱 봤어요 말했어. 군도 뭐부게 군도 간다게요 말봐. 땅에도 실로 있다고 그러봐. 시베다고 그러봐.
First, as far as
되네 단도 찌투는 게 써야지 여러봐. 직 토마토스야 티티시 되다 그런 게 직접네 초제 그런 거 단도 라바나신 직접네 섬는 담배이나 상매기 직접 상고 여데 이나야 되는 난세 상당이나 몇 상매 상반나시 상바 직접 연구요 말아 가시에게 약보 통고 여러 가시에게도 변은 잘한다 버지는 나 면단이도 통고 여러 되고 대단다 그런 난세 다 진투는 게 레서야지 유주 여러 봐
firstly, in terms of phenomenal world, material or phenomenal world is concerned, as we talked about yesterday, whatever object, in whatever form or shape, seems to exist, or whatever exists, rather, only seemingly existing. If we even intellectually investigate, only seemingly existing. In that, in whatever form or shape or seemingly independently existing, coming together of the different components and so seemingly compounded, yet interdependently existing, therefore no form, no object exists in the form they exist, in the seemingly independent existence they have, lack such existence. So lack inherent true existence in that form or in that independentness. So with that understanding, but that certainly does not negate or obstruct arising of phenomena. So here, in connection with conceptual fixation or conceptual reality, arising of phenomena, appearance, form, is not negated, it's not obstructed. But then, when things, thus form, whatever form exist, interdependently, seemingly independent, lacking that, and when we react with our minds, coming from the notion of self, identifying with the notion of the existence of self, notion of existence of others, that such and such a thing is so. We conceptually determine the reality of a thing, that it is such and such a thing, that it is such and such a shape and form.
대손자 빼나 나란도 상보 독보 제게 다 약분도 대 약분민도 삼바지 열어봤어. 대손자 대 약분도도 독분도 삼마삼티 반나 코 외부 코란 게 된도라 약보다 독부카 말씀그 봐 다 당당하라 내게 열어봐. 스틱배나
되면은 야는 약 요청만 약
강가를 야고 그러봐. 배는 드네 가시에게 야고 통과를 가시에 두고 통과 열어봐.
So, in this way, knowing that through analytical approach, knowing how things exist, so holding on to it as of a particular shape and the reality of that shape, or particular material or independent entity is no other than the mind labeling it as such and clinging to it as such. And the object itself does not hold that reality that a mind holds of it. In this way, conceptual fixation of reality. With regard to we having the same concept, a lot of us having the same concept of form or shape, and not necessarily so. It may appear that way, you see. It may seem that way, and there is a reason. Having accumulated similar karma, therefore coming from that mental outlook, that we have similar, because of similar confused outlook, similar notions of reality. But of course, it's not the same. We don't have the same exact concept, can't have same exact concept of a thing. And in one way, maybe we have similar concept, but in another way, we don't have. Let's say, as far as a thing is concerned, maybe
코란게 땡돌라 야고 두고 조위에는 탐지기 찍는 통고 때 통계요 말봐.
as far as maybe the shape of a thing is concerned, maybe we have similar concept. But how good that shape is or not, maybe we have different concepts. And what kind of appearance that shape has, and maybe we have different concept about it. So, then the basic point is, so we have concept, a notion of good and bad and so many others. So, given a particular object, and if the goodness is the nature of that object, and therefore, if goodness is what that object manifests, then if it is entirely the object that is good, then everybody should experience it.
상보다 독부 코란 쪽지 땡도 조위에나? 안 탐지 통고요. 레스 독슬라다 따데.
Or more specifically, if the goodness and the badness is inherent in the object, like table, then say goodness, from the goodness point of view, then everyone should see it good. If the goodness is the inherent nature of the table, everyone should see it. And vice versa. If badness, the reverse, is true of the table, everyone should see it. But some sees it very good, the shape and the color, whatever it is. Some are very drawn, attracted to that particular shape and color. They think it's very good. Others have reverse, opposite thinking of the same object that is point. So, which is very clear that good or bad is not existent in the object. But the mind puts the conceptual reality of good on the object, so whoever puts that label and holds onto that reality of the label is good. Whoever holds the reverse, and for them it is bad. But in itself is neither good nor bad.
대송자 텐데스 지도더니 듬세 텔라 때네 Lenje ke marik pa ta kunda ke marik pa stene ewa chi ge yores. Lenje ke marik pa se che dang ke bena yu jin zimba ye ba tam chi dang ara lenje yin ba so tham je ke yu ta tinde thong ge yores. Ye na ya tela tene kunda ke marik pa ti ke tene dam men da chi dor na khanji sem res.
So there is in we have two terms. One is known as the lenje, marikpa, simultaneous or co-emergent ignorance, and the other is gundaki marikpa, which is ignorance of conceptual reality. So simultaneous meaning just
Da
the notion coming from the notion of self, the ignorance of having starting from that ignorance a concept of self, and then therefore conceptual reality, conceptual ignorance, and then you make reality conceptually of others, which is not the nature of whatever you conceptually make something real.
Yeah, please.
First, I had a question from last night. It seems that over and over again, you identified thoughts and Buddha nature. Thoughts as not being different from Buddha nature, thoughts being a manifestation of Buddha nature. And then on the first question, which I don't have a note of, but the answer said, being aware of thoughts is not the same as being aware of Buddha nature. There was some sense of trying to make a point.
Mare kurang se namdo hakwa ti tene deshin ba hakwa mares. Ti se ya de chedang ge tiregos. Chanang ge se ya ti 남도 배나 ngaran chuge ta thangbu chedang ge namdo ki khadang chi ge thisunga tene namdo tene shar tene tro ya namdo khurang ran pa me cha ya shar te tam ji pen te ti ga sheba tsam di mares di mares ge yor ma to tene namdo khurang ngo ti tene ti cheda ti tsam di mares ge yor es dan dona.
Yes, the question was, yesterday the question was, you notice thought arising. You know, as you said, you notice thought arising.
Maybe
you're doing shamatha, for instance.
아니 남도 샤르게 요래 되네 텔라 때도 고 쿠란 제스 만란도 신도 요래 봐. 이나한테 되네 남도 ngo도 또 보면 봐.
So as you do shamatha practice and thought arises and you notice thought arising and you don't entertain the thought arising, you notice thought arising, so you wouldn't entertain thought arising, and meaning not get further distracted by thought. And so since you don't entertain thoughts, that's further chain of thinking, then thoughts disappear. So there is you are maybe constantly faced with thought arising and noticing, and since you don't follow with it or entertain it, and thought disappearing. So the question yesterday was, it says, as His Eminence understood it, is being thus aware of thought, is this, being aware of the nature of mind, being aware of the nature of thought, being aware of thought in this way, you notice arising, you notice disappearing.
가능해서나 디 멤버 좀 센티 남도 그런 거 오도 또나 남도 샤르 삼바제다 조스 삼바제기 똑바디 용토 말했어.
And so
샤르 투냠레스.
His Eminence saying that this noticing of thought, this being aware of thought, is not realizing the nature of thought. That is not the nature of thought. if you have experience of the nature of thought, then it is beyond being aware of thought arising. You know, the experience of the nature of thought is in itself liberate you from the noticing the arising of thought. Noticing of the arising of thought in itself is self-liberated. You understand?
샤로 투념
beyond watching is all.
베나 단단다우지 다 남도 샤르 데네 남도 샤네야 남도 파 매버차 야 샤르스야지요 바스 디기 똑바도 용만했어 나도나
Yes, there would be no concept of or no thoughts of, okay, first thought rising, and then thought disappear. And you noticing thought arising. Then you notice thought disappearing. And that is thought too. That you would be free of the thought. That thought.
데손자 단 너나
With-
이나야 딜람레스
at the experience of the nature of thought, you will be liberated of this thought too.
데세사 람레스 다단다 독스지 주티게 벤데 데손자 데 베나가라도 시네지다 고미야 들어봤어
But it's not saying, as a path, this is wrong. No, in the Shinin practice, obviously, then you should notice arising of thoughts, and you should, in terms of not following after thoughts.
데사 다 지난 참로도 야고 따시
Now,
지난 선이 참로도 야고 따시
when you go into retreat, you look at it more.
Yes. You said you have someone?
Longden nang tigar besam.
Ah,
Longden nang tigar besam.
yes.
Could you just comment on the notion of scientific objectivity?
가사.
Meaning,
Well, science, the whole notion of science is to study that which is objective, that which exists. And our whole body of knowledge has developed around the study of so-called existing objects or existence of objects.
세리 세라.
시샤는 봐. 주바 시샤는 니 아트니 독진 따제 강찬해 봐. 답베 관수 되는 로준다 달 로주다 강다 강 자시 쳐봐 강여부터 정말 직 강이는 되네 주바 시샤의 공권 봐. 되네 다 주당 칸저 출도 되네 다 직체도 강을 때는 되네 좀도 뭐지다 주바 지더니 시샤 봐. 유튜브 시샤.
네, 되네.
지금 들려야 되네. 기 공부한데.
예, 근데 지금 나랑에만 근데 하고 스트레스 가두래 찍라. 세도 다 그냥 세리 가시게 마루바 시샤네 직직이 어렸어도. 뭐마 이 군저 거스.
But His Eminence feels it is appropriate to leave it for the scientists right now, because he heard that some scientists disagree that anything exists now.
나랑 당부터 삼손스. 예, 여바지 시샤는데 콘도 직이 어렸었는데 지금 알을 찍랍성에네.
At least in conversation with some scientists, His Eminence talked to them with the understanding that the scientific approach was based on that something existed, whatever existed, and saw how they existed. And as His Eminence had a conversation, said, "Oh no, it was how, from finding out, how they existed, then."
다 얘나야. 간지 세리가 토는 거랑 그 섬수레스. 근데 그 예버 토는 세리 지기 연을 매버 토는 세리 지기 연을 단다 잠데 칭무부 그 잠지 그 세리레스. 하고서가 때는 난게 세리 등에 단다 그런 스텔 땐 통그레 성우면도스. 바나 다 지기 세리 잠지 가는 저 봐요레스. 베세나 진짜 다운다운도와.
Whether if you are simply coming from an objective point of view, then whether you are coming from agreeing that something exists and then finding out how, anything or how the it exists, or coming from the point of view that things lack existence, and then finding out how they lack existence, if that scientific approach or objective scientific approach would not at all help in not bring about the same benefit in the result as doing it from inwardly, in working with the mind, which is that which investigates objective reality or yes.
Yeah.
Your Eminence, clinging seems to be our problem.
Yes.
Clinging. And when I try to understand the nature of clinging as we describe it, beginningless, endless, and so on, it seems to be exactly the same as ego, of what is meant by ego, and is the central purpose of the practice of meditation to see our clinging and to see through it.
Zimbabwe danzir beserva.
독신 다 간다지는 좀바데
세야도 danzira.
테데 테니 단질에 되는 로신 붙이 멤버라스 좀 저도
딱딱해.
테인도 다 공잡고 좀 센서버트 되는다 단진테 팔 그리고 샤제 테 저부터스
다그라레스. 다그라레스.
Yes, you could very much say that.
근데 다 danzil에 간사게 다도 취지다 나스게 야와 먹지요.
Yes.
다이나 조도 danzit라.
There is while there is some
제가 하고 그래봤어.
some classification of ego clinging. Basically, it's ego clinging, or egoistic clinging, and but we talk about the ego and ego of dharmas, phenomena, and so clinging to the which is notion of existence of self, and clinging to the notion of the existence of others, phenomena.
저도 정말 그냥 다음에요. 야. 오케이.
And so there are a number of classifications, but basically the point is to break through clinging all together.
Yes. Yes.
Ricochet, with regards to the terms self-awareness and luminosity, by self-awareness do you mean self-existing awareness?
말했어. 디 말했어. 디를 쓰기요 말해. 샘코라 되네 릭세야디 샘코라 되네 베나 ngo동바 다남 베나 ngo동바다 넘버 사와 이신도 라 하코와시 동아스 망가 버치테 베나 코라 서리 ngo시 동아스 어티스게요 마도 코라 통주 여버지기 쓰기도 말하겠어야 돼 베나 self 여버지 통하세요 봐
간릭스도 다들 들하마도 주시 차례입니다.
네 제가 됐어야 됐어요 그래서
그러 되니 란힌티나요 되니티
베나 잉릭 송주스게요 봐 잉릭 송주 샘코란 잉릭 송주스도 잉스도 샘코란 ngo라시 마주바데이르 봐 얘나야 마주브 신돌라 안에 베나 디 하코와 차시 동안 들었어요 그래서 베나 데세드 마주브 바레세드 가야메 낙톰로와 마임바지 그러나 탐제 사르신 릭바시 동안 들었어
Okay. Nature of mind, when we talk of mind as to whether mind exists or doesn't exist. Mind lacks true existence. True existence. And so the nature of mind, therefore, is emptiness. And when we talk about the nature of mind, emptiness, the reason for saying all the others, as far as the attributes or the characteristic of mind is, so that you don't misunderstand what is meant by emptiness. Don't have misconceptions around it. Emptiness does not mean going blank. Just no understanding, no experience, no seeing, no perceiving, nothing, emptiness, flat, blank. So, that is not emptiness. And because, then what it is because of nature of emptiness, then characteristic luminosity, clarity. And so, luminosity and emptiness inseparable. And yet, there is awareness or knowingness. So that is what we're talking about. Still there is knowing. It's not like going blank.
Bana duslavda. Bana sem koran dusta yendu tene sem deris me bachigla yena yang me shendula kan yena ya hak hoto bachilonga. Tig gyumang.
And you can't find mind.
Yena yang manye shendula tig gyumanga bachilonga. Bana kan yena.
And as you keep not finding mind. Now keep going. Keep not finding mind, yet there is unimpeded knowing happening. This is what is referred to self-awareness. In Tibetan, the rang-rik is the word in Tibetan, and unless anybody else knows a better term, it's self-awareness is...
rik seya de chidange hakko sewa de rik pas ton asigeyo des. Inam shaga mig ton asigeyo marba sem koran.
So the term rikpa literally means seeing. But of course, in this context, not seeing with the flesh, the physical eye.
That's why luminosity is an interesting term, because it seems that luminosity is almost a term that's used to illustrate the notion of
This do kanskor.
Teacher dana maus the tani salvati ke rigbati tani ta toxchedu rigba de la mago che salvati chibwa la shinam rig yo na shinche de khorman salvati ke tani rigba shuk ten de yo sare teacher ni ta salvati chikte chechen do sa
Sawala tene rigba te shuk chegres kwa. Tanda chekpa re ina ya rigba se de shida kaso shuk chewanda bes.
The awareness of the knowing is a more important, a stronger support.
This onza bena ngaran to toksinga
Tongwa ta salwani ina tadongyang twalia chi kyabni tongwa thang salwe kyabni yang rigwai ti mesal ya rosijiba.
Tatus lavda. Anji sarik sawa de rigba ni de tisgeyo res. This onza rigba se de tes sawa tsamje mai ba koran rangarong rango ton to bes de rigba se shuk chen bji res.
So, the awareness and the knowingness, the self-awareness is important in that that which experiences luminosity, that which is aware of luminosity, yet unobstructed all the time.
This onza gyumsen tel tene kan se yes zogba chenbu luksula rigba shida sungu dwas. De khashe ge chaksen da zogsen ni barula ji kebra yeban da buji. Jene shege dwas. Ngoma chena ngone ge korang ge lam korang ge tawe ge tone kebra tawani ni yo manes. 하고 송아 제발 자원이네 요 얘나야 색코랑 그 톤에 되는 착생게 값솔라 당부 값솔라 타머지 쉐바스 전에 백 쓰게요 레스텔라 되네 조정게 값솔 릭플러스 전에 당분에 코라 릭바 코라는 파 줘셔도 색 톤에 따는데 빼면서 비지 가서고 예와 요면다 통고 요르데 얘나야 단다고 톤에 예와 요 말레스
And yes,
릭바텔라 따지 가서 누바 챔버다지요 톤톤 릭
anybody has any other word for rikpa?
Self-awareness.
You know, Michelle? Huh?
Self-awareness, self-existing awareness. The awareness exists of itself.
You could, probably say that. Huh? Yes. Oh, yes.
다 두스텔 랍스터 되게도 딱 한지
So anyway,
다 뒤져 집을 시작 줬지다
in the people, based on just words, people think there is. People like to entertain their minds with the notion that there is a big difference between Mahamudra and Mahāti. Thinking that Mahāti means somewhere up there, and Mahamudra, somewhere not so up. You see, and
대 칸에서나 예와데 타마디 셰바다 릭바니 바로 운두고요 그래서 특히
that is a very serious confusion, because the confusion is based on when, from Mahamudra point of view, we talk about Tamalgisheba. Tamalgisheba, ordinary mind.
고축단티
And so the
고축단티
way we start is address it from the point of view Tamalgisheba. And
디게이나 시게게나 줄다 타마디 셰바 써야지 가시게 고만 봐
Tamalgisheba, or ordinary mind, the mind as it is, in that. And then in
적생게 당번에 릭바스지는 두고요
and in the Mahāti, from the very beginning, use Rikpa, or awareness, self-existing awareness. What is it? Self-illuminating awareness, whichever one helps.
제단 디니 그 바로 식티기 톤이 켄두고요
So that we use much simple words, and instead of from the very beginning getting hit with a big, so the two words make a difference. One word keeps you here, even though it's saying the same thing. The other word seems to take you up here.
가레레스나 타마디 셰바 릭바텔라 릭바스 그래스 타마디 셰바 랑오 릭바텔라 릭바스 그래스
Seeing Tamalgisheba, ordinary mind, is Rikpa.
손자 텐데스레스 예나야 식담지 톤의 텐데스 누구 여두 되다 배는 좀 매밤 그 송아레스 게 단다 카르라베트 파스주라 좀 매밤 그 송바레 배는 좀 매밤 코랑 그서 릭베 톤에 암 다베는 오네 그 톤에 차도니를 예와 배나 주비아 매 송아레스 식담지 그 톤에 주비아 요즘 좀 매밤 그 송아레스 배는 코랑 베트 스콜러 챔버레스
One of the greatest scholar, Mipham, Ju Mipham, himself had said, Rigbek Tony Yawa Yusra.
식담지 그 톤이 예와 마도 더 릭베 톤이 예와 메스 샘나 릭베 톤에 토메
As
예와
far as the difference between Mahamudra and Mahāti, simply as far as the use of words, just simply as far as word is concerned, there is difference. As far as a view, a meaning, and experience, no difference.
근데 송바 송자다 너나 게 근데 릭바스에는데 슉체지요레스 사와스에는데 제단 그 서비스
And so the mind is characterized by nature emptiness and self-manifesting of luminosity and awareness. And Awareness is much stronger than seeing through or insight. It's much stronger than luminosity. Luminosity only expresses that things can arise, but seeing arising, constant, unimpeded awareness of arising is from, then you get that from Rigpa or awareness.